Nice photo.
So gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing, I think it's important for the audience that they understand a bit, your background and especially what your organization or what your company is doing. So maybe Rex, can you please start?
Yeah, hi everyone. It's my honor to be here. Actually, last time I was on the panel was for an entire different area. It was kind of something Shanghai, London Stock Connect. Well, actually, I'm working as asset manager back in China. I do based in Hong Kong and Shanghai. And basically, I've been in the asset management business for quite some years. And currently, I'm working as an independent director of the EOE project, which is called a Exchange of Exchanges, which is nice. We tend to build a one-stop platform in which investors can just trade every asset they want, including traditional assets and crypto assets as well. So that's kind of cool, but sometimes, as an independent director, it's my duty. I feel that my duty to put a break a little bit because my team, they're just very enthusiastic about the project itself, but I just got to tell them we have to do it one step at a time.
Thank you. So Katka, you're from Kickstart Accelerator, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so thank you so much for having me. On personal level, I've been involved with the Kickstart for the last 2.5 years. Previously, I ran Accelerator in Southeast Asia for 10 countries, and before then, initiatives for the White House in the US for Mr. Obama. You might have heard of him before. For the Kickstart Accelerator, it is one of the largest multi-corporate and other partner equity-free accelerators, and we focus on fintech and crypto, smart cities and infrastructure, food, and retail, as well as edtech and learning.
Amazing. So there is one guy here, and he's a corporate guy, which I don't really believe. But Zenel, can you maybe explain what's the corporate guy behind you?
That was my previous life. Actually, I'm an ICO veteran. Somehow I feel a little bit responsible for the thing that is happening right now. We did the first bigger ICO in Europe 2 years ago. That is called Economy. It was done by no ones from no-name country called Slovenia. And I think this is the ultimate proof that ICOs can be something that can be used for great visions and great ideas from this part of the world. Today, Economy is running the biggest crypto fund in Europe, at least, I think. And the purpose of the company is to help the best European ideas to live this beautiful world. We help, for example, Aragon. We help Iten, one of the best projects in this space, I think. But that led to another thing. This is Cofound.it. I think it's one of the most ambitious blockchain accelerators. We did the evaluation of 500 projects in the last 10 months. And I tell you, most of them are completely wrong. It just doesn't work like that. And what I'm personally doing, I'm working on the new concept of ICO that will take the best from blockchain, from tokenization, and best from the startup world. And I think we will win.
OK, thank you. So, Kees, because you were already introduced before, I think it doesn't really make sense to talk about your company, but I have a question for you because it's a bit related to what Zenel said. So many crypto startups are overfunded from day one, actually, and we had the discussion before. So hence they have a different starting environment than traditional VC and angel-funded startups. So how do you see this? If a startup raises 50 million just on day one, is that a problem?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that's the short answer to that. And the reason I think it is a problem is there's a lot of businesses, a lot of ICOs, and a lot of startups that have very young teams, and they've been given an amount of money, and they don't really have a plan or a structure or how to go and spend that money and spend that wisely. And there's not always a budget, there's not always a financial plan to roll out that goes over a slightly longer period of time. Not that it has to be detailed. And I think that's an issue, because I think what it fosters is the wrong kind of thinking within the startup, because it allows them to solve problems by spending money. and that doesn't really push the creativity. And I think what makes startups really strong is that you're starved, you know, from oxygen, and when you're starved from oxygen, you come up with creative solutions. And I think that makes really, really strong startups. And therefore, I believe that it is part, you know, of a problem, and it's part of the reasons why, indeed, some ICOs, you know, are struggling.
All right. So maybe to you, Rex, because you're running actually a company, you're independent director at the Exchanges of Exchanges. So how do you see that? You know, if you from day one get a lot of money, is that, you know, you see the problems Kees has mentioned before?
Okay. Well, I gotta say, basically from day one, we don't really have enough money for our project, but we're doing fine because we have very good sponsors on that, but not raising funds from some funds or accelerators. To be honest, I think, as for starters, we got to do the right thing. That's the first place. And secondly, I believe maybe with it, because blockchain is basically technology or concept of technologies, and so we got to embrace the technology. And with the money raised, we can definitely just to try to invest in this technology first, and afterwards we just do the right thing and maybe find some good accelerator incubators.
So it sounds very pragmatic, right? So Katka, from Kickstart Accelerator, do you provide any special programs or kind of services or ICO advisory services to the startups who are part of your program?
So for us, since we work with corporations a lot, as with the financial institutions, I would say it's a mix. Like we focus a lot on blockchain. We definitely had some of the crypto startups, and we are growing that because we can see the interest. They are all implementing our content, so we have special workshops. I really enjoyed in the last 2 years, you know, it's not kind of the typical master classes when you have talking head and kind of deliver the content, but it's really panels that you have the teams from the banks and from insurance companies as well as other organizations to talk with the startups on the eye level and to say what are the successes and what are the case studies also, because I think there's a lot of amazing blockchain resources. Like, you know, we had startups from South Korea or from Singapore sharing their experiences, and I think it's not always about just, you know, for on the one way, I would say collaboration, it's always for, you know, all of them to be involved.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the market environment. You know, my personal impression is that it's still a bit crazy, so people are crazy around that whole topic. So to you, Zenel, you know, when you compare the current hype around blockchain, ICO, crypto, do you think there's some similarities to the .com age?
Yes, there is one similarity. It's labeled as a bubble. But in our case, I think we are not talking about bubble, but about huge spike. We haven't seen it yet. The reason why, and these are the major differences, is that our space is it's really global, while the .com bubble was actually American one. The second one is speed. The decentralization in distribution, there's much more speed behind, and that's why all things are happening much, much, much faster. 1 year in this new world is 12 years in the old world. You know, it's completely different thing. And I think the third biggest difference is that our environment is still not regulated. Because of the regulation is missed, then strange things can happen right now. But they have something in common. There will be blood on streets.
All right. Good.
Yes.
So maybe another question. Do you think that regulation is needed right now? Or
Yes, I believe regulation is definitely needed because in my industry, I work for asset manager. There are already some very mature procedures and regulations in place, but the jurisdiction maybe varies from country to country, from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. But at least the regulations are there are rules to follow. But in crypto, this industry and this area, the regulation is still missing. The major problem is not that we are not in compliance, but there is no way, there is nothing to apply for. And back to the previous question, I think this market is just a little bit overcrowded right now because the concept of blockchain, and so numerous startups and numerous accelerators and incubators. But as you incubators may find, not every project is worth to be incubated. Yeah, actually, I think both the startups and the incubators should be selective on that. The startups, we got to do the right thing before anything else. We got to have some marketing and industry insights. And for incubators and accelerators, some projects just, it basically make no sense at all. But as this overcrowded market, for you incubators, so you got to, just sometimes you don't have the right to pick.
No, I think that self-regulation just doesn't work here. We tried it and it doesn't work. Maybe we don't need regulation, but we need more certainty. That would be the first step, and then we go to regulation.
All right, okay. So my next question is maybe to you, Kees. We see a peak of inflated expectation, around the topic blockchain, tokenization, and all these things. But which kind of business models do you see as realistic?
Good question. I think from our perspective, from a Hammer team perspective, and also kind of like the business that I'm in, and the ICO that we're running, we can't like really pare it down to the fact that blockchain is technology. It enables us to build a business. It enables us to kind of like put a solution in the market that solves, in our eyes, a real problem that is there. And that is the keystone to our business. That is a problem that we are solving. So I don't think that, of course there will be new economic models around this, there'll be new business models around this, but at the core of it has to be a real kind of like business case, a real problem that needs to be solved. And I think that's something that people too often forget.
Absolutely. I mean, I can confirm that also from an incubator accelerator point of view. We got a lot of applications actually, and we put a lot of effort also in selecting the right teams.
Right.
And the first question we usually ask the teams is, what kind of problem do you solve?
Exactly.
And if you see what they actually pitch to you, they probably, throw all the buzzwords to you. Like everyone, in the last 3 months, I got, all these blockchain applications. And our first question was always, what kind of problem do you solve? And honestly, I mean, many of the teams had no idea.
Exactly. And it's not only not knowing which problem they don't solve, it's describing that in like 2-3 sentences and kind of like going, this is what we do. If you can't do that, I think you have to go back to the drawing board.
Exactly.
May I add something?
Sure.
So I think that most of the projects we had in the past were about solving the thing that will be endorsed by the new economy blockchain community. What I think that is missing is the other part, the counterpart, is actually the corporate world that needs to endorse those projects, because we need demand. Demand will come from the corporate world. Most of these projects, they can't have demand. So liquidity, where do we get it? Where's the utility of tokens? It doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really valid point. It's like, and I think what will be the successful projects out there that are going to solve real business problems, not just blockchain problems, not just kind of like blockchain-centric technology that makes blockchain better and better and better. It needs to make the connection to the real world. And that's, go back to your previous question, that's where regulation will help. It will build trust for those businesses to kind of like go, this is not just about Bitcoin, this is not just about bubble, it's a great technology that will help solve a real business problem. And I think that would be the key.
Excellent, exactly. So Katka, for you, Kickstart Accelerator has also a model like we have, connecting corporates and startups. So can you confirm that, you need actually both parties to, get into this more realistic business model and, bring those things to the next level?
Mm-hmm. I think definitely I think a lot is about communication and collaboration. I mean, that goes, I completely agree on the quality with the startups. We see so many applications, doesn't only go to blockchain, but also AI and machine learning and much more. I feel I spend more time to saying, no, you are not blockchain or AI, please go back and reevaluate. But I think it's really not, I really like the comment about a business, like what you do and kind of how you solve the problem, but also how you can fit on the market and how can you work. There's a lot of, on the side of the corporations, we work with so many, we have over 20, and I really kind of like to be challenged by them to say, Katka, we want to help, but these are the challenges we have. Can you really bring the startups that can actually help us? And so, I feel the coin always has two sides. So we really try to fit that as much as possible. I think one of the things then I learned, coming from Silicon Valley, and we kind of go and fail all the time, basically, and that's something that's been for me a little bit challenging in Switzerland the last 3 years, that, to convincing kind of both parties to say it's completely fine to actually try this, and if it doesn't work, you can go and pivot. And I have to say, from all the success stories we have failures that went back, pivoted, and became ETA spin-offs and are amazing startups now. But I don't think that will happen if they didn't have the chance to go out and actually try that in the market, really in the competition, not in. I feel like sometimes with the accelerators or incubators, we are kind of the safe environment. It's almost like having kids when you set them out after the school. And so it's kind of more important
you need to accept them.
to connect them to the real world as soon as possible.
Absolutely. So we call it pampering the startups, right?
Can I more?
Oh, sure.
Because I've been thinking that the incubators and accelerators, you're trying to connect the demand and the supply, the startups and the real world company business. But whose duty it is to connect the regulators? Because the regulators, you incubator and accelerators, you know this industry, you know this business more than maybe anyone else. Just maybe sometimes it's your incubators and accelerators' duty to kind of communicate with the regulators and put with some.
I would say it's definitely kind of communicating, but also involving them, right? To bring them around the table. I think if you have all the stakeholders together and you work together, that's actually when the magic happens. And it's not like we'll create something in the kind of, in our garage, we try, and then try to implement it later. I think it's important to start those conversations from the beginning.
Absolutely. I think also
it's about trust.
Yeah.
It's about trust. And we have a strange situation down there in Slovenia because I think we have the biggest number of ICOs per capita in EU, not excluding Switzerland. We, the first movers, are the ones that we are the responsible ones to talk to governments and regulators, and that's what we are doing. And everyone was telling, you are losing your time, but no, it's our duty to do it. And we have a fantastic experience with our government. We did a lot of things together, and I think everything can be done. They listen. When you say we are bringing new sources of money because we want taxation, they will come to you.
That's a good point.
It's magic words.
All right, so the last question here, and maybe also to you guys here, you can choose. If you could choose and actually, creating the perfect ecosystem around what we are doing, what would be your first wish, your Katka?
I think perfect, almost the imperfect is the perfect sometimes in the startup world. I don't think perfect exists and should not exist, actually. For me, I think if it's access to all the stakeholders that kind of you need in order to succeed, from open innovation to really great access to great tech and teams that are really dedicated to do so. I would say connection to potential clients and investors, because I think sometimes that process is still really long, and that's really hard for the startups to succeed. As well, sometimes for the corporations, we work really on hands-on. Like, I think for me, it's a lot about doing, not talking. And so that's why we go and try to do as many proof of concepts and commercial projects. And for the corporations, if you wait too long, their projects will also change. So I think in perfect world, really fast and lean process for all the stakeholders.
Right. I'm very fast. It's called Cofound.it, and it comes from Europe.
Any other wishes we can maybe also address to the audience?
No, I think the point that was made earlier about sort of like connections to the real world are super valuable. It's about, I think one reasons to get, or one way to get blockchain more adopted in the mainstream is to maybe not lead with blockchain. Yeah, it's to kind of like just put that in the background a little bit and maybe surprise people and say like, all of this really cool stuff, it was actually blockchain, that's what it did. So those connections to the real world, I think, are super interesting. And what we for Hammer Team works, and the companies in Hammer Team, is the freedom to talk. We work completely on a non-competitive kind of like basis. You know, this market is huge. You know, talk to each other, engage with each other, share with each other, look for partnerships. That is really going to power things along and benefit everyone involved.
Excellent. So thank you very much.
And thank you so much. Let's give him a hand, please.